Hi, my name is Robert Giles. I'm the host of Waste of Time Podcast. So on this show, even when we cover sometimes heavy stuff when we talk about the news, we try to keep it pretty lighthearted and just, overall pretty humorous. Well, this episode's not going to be like that. That's because we've actually decided to dedicate this episode to covering the tragic and downright horrific news that's been racking the country over the last few weeks. While Ben and I both encourage you to stick around and listen to the whole thing, because it's pretty important. If you can't really deal with heavy news and dark stuff like that, I get it. Just saying that this will not be your typical lighthearted waste of time podcast episode. That being said, we hope Ben and I both hope you stick around for this, and welcome to the Waste of Time Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Waste of Time Podcast. I'm your host Albert Giles, here again with Ben Rose. Hello, Ben.
Hi, I'm Ben.
So before we even get started with the whole topic, which I addressed in the video intro to this thing, I want to quickly mention the very infrequent upload schedule for this podcast. I think we actually covered this in episode 6 in last episode. But if you guys haven't noticed, this podcast, we've been recording on various days, and the upload times and dates and days of the week have been changing very randomly for the last few weeks just because of school and stuff like that. So we're gonna from now on, we're gonna try to record these on Thursdays. I'm gonna try to get them up sometime Saturday morning. So before noon on Saturdays. I mean, I'll probably be editing them Friday night, and it might be up as early as 3 a.m. on Saturday morning. Anyway, with that being said, we're gonna get into the main topic, and again, I think if I remember to upload the video intro to this, which I hopefully did, this is gonna be a very dark, heavy topic. I mean, like even in this podcast pretty much always covers news, important news, current news, but this is gonna be heavier than anything we've really covered in the past. We did kind of touch on this in the last week's episode, but this is gonna be a more in-depth discussion of that. So while we do encourage you very heavily to stick around for this entire thing, we'd really appreciate it if you did. I also realize that it is heavy, and if you can't deal with it, then I understand. But we Ben and I would both very much appreciate if you could stick around. With that being said, Ben, let's start the news.
Yeah. Also, I'd like to add on to what Oliver says. If the reason why if you want to leave is because this thing is just like getting into your newsfeed so much, or if like you feel uncomfortable with it, I'd like you to kind of examine like why you're so uncomfortable with hearing these images and seeing this stuff on the daily when it happens all the time. Like, I'm not trying to blame you as a listener. You as a listener have the right to leave, but we strongly, very strongly encourage you to listen to what we have to say. Yeah. Also, as white and white passing people respectively, Oliver and I we can't speak for black people.
Yeah, no.
But we're hoping to use our platform. Yeah, we definitely can't. No. But we're hoping to use our platform as a tool to kind of raise awareness and get some good done with our voices. And this is our way of doing that.
Yeah. Anyway, so, Ben, let's start. You want to get started with the news, which is pretty much this entire podcast.
So let's start about what's happening. So how this format's kind of work out is I'm going to say the news. Oliver and I are going to kind of break down the subpoints where we have it on our slides, and then we're going to discuss. And I think that's going to be.
Also, I think it's like we both have a few specific points that we want to cover individually as well. I've got like one very quick one that I want to cover in a few minutes after you do the first discussion, I think. Anyway, Ben, let's go.
Yeah. Okay, so. First off, we want to give you guys a breakdown of what's happening. So if you do not know what's happening, how can you not know what's happening? There's
unless you've been out camping with no cell service for the last month and no connection to the outside world. If you live, especially if you live in the U.S., even though this actually has actually reached international news as well. But especially if you live in the U.S., unless you've had no connection to the outside world for the last few weeks, the last month, then I don't know how you don't know how this is going on. But yeah.
So, essentially, a black man was murdered unjustly by the police who kneeled on his neck for 8 minutes and 56 seconds in Minneapolis, Minnesota. George Floyd was murdered, and it was because he used a counterfeit $20 bill at a store. He got murdered. And earlier, on March 13th, a woman named Breonna Taylor was also murdered. I think it was in Louisville. And essentially, what this ended up doing is people were like, we can't take this anymore. The police they've gone too far. We need to hold them accountable, and so they started protesting. So they protested in Minneapolis. They burned down some property. The protests were by themselves largely peaceful. They burned down a police precinct, and then it spread everywhere else. And everywhere else, people started going out in the street and started making their voices heard, and started, just protesting the police and holding them accountable.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of news outlets seem to be covering the violence committed by the protesters, which is, in my opinion, I don't know about yours, Oliver, it's not the main focus that we should.
It's not. No,
because
it's kind of like, I think for at least in my opinion, kind of obvious, I think the main focus should be the problem that started this whole thing in the first place, which is institutionalized racism, which is like, if these incidents didn't happen, there would be no need to protest in this type of thing. If these incidents never happened.
Exactly.
But racism like this does happen quite often, and that's what causes this to happen in the first place.
Especially in police departments.
Yeah. Also, Ben, can I say something really quickly?
Go ahead.
So I don't want this to be taken the wrong way, but say this happened in say August of 2019. Anytime, really, you'll see them getting out in a second here. But anytime before quarantine started, this would have obviously probably been news, not as big of news. I think it's been amplified because we don't have a lot of the news to talk about. Which in a way is actually a good thing because it's getting heard about a lot more than it would have been otherwise. I mean, it would have obviously made news. But I think it's getting talked about more because just quarantine we're trying to focus on like whatever news we can really get at this point.
Yeah, I agree, right?
Yeah.
But I also think that obviously protests are historically contingent, but at the same time you also have this massive, there were 3 black people that were murdered in 2 months in widely publicized. One of them was lynched, Ahmaud Arbery, and 2 of them were murdered by police, Breonna Taylor and George Floyd.
Right.
And that also, I think, really definitely contributed to it. I mean, also quarantine too, because people they don't have a lot to do, so they check the news, and everyone can see it, right?
I think.
So, anyways, back to the.
I think I actually mentioned this last time. Is like I was doing my work for finals week. I was kind of like focusing on that and nothing else. And I kind of like, okay, phew, I'm done with this. Let's see what the world is like. Holy shit, what is happening? But also, I think as you mentioned last time, this type of stuff's going on a lot, and like only like 10% of it actually gets major news publications and stuff like that. Like, just because like there are 3 people like murdered, 3 black people murdered by police in the last few months. Publicized. There have been more that unpublicized that don't go noticed. Which is really tragic as well.
There have been 3 in the last 2 days.
Yeah.
There have been 3 that I've heard about in the last 2 days. And we're going to talk about those later.
Yeah.
So first off, when we talk about violence perpetrated by the protesters, I've seen these articles that say that looting is a valid form of protest in a world which is just dependent on markets. I don't really know if that's something that I want to say on this podcast.
Yeah.
But let me just say that as white people, and as non-black people, we do not have the right to tell anybody how to protest. We do not have the right to tell anybody how to do it. And honestly, if we say that this isn't the right way to protest, this isn't the right way to protest. That being said, I do not support the burning down of small businesses. That is not okay.
Yeah, I do not either.
However, if it's a chain, you're getting different territory. You're getting into different territory if it's a chain, and also if it's a police precinct. That's very, very different, too.
Yeah.
Like, we can agree on that.
Yeah, I agree, yeah.
But let's focus not on the violence of the protesters, but on the violence of the police.
Yeah.
This entire thing was used to go against police violence. So, Oliver, you remember those stupid protests we talked about a few weeks ago where there were people that were protesting not having masks, right?
Yeah. I heard about that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So something that you saw at those protests was the cops standing in the line, not in riot gear, while there were people yelling, bearing arms outside state capitals. You also saw people at Huntington Beach, and there were no police. But the minute that Black Lives Matter shows up, you have policemen. You have a crush of policemen.
Yep.
You had policemen that I sent you a ton of videos. The policemen that popped some woman's tires, destroyed her windows, and dragged her and her husband or her and her boyfriend or her partner or whatever, out into the street and started beating them.
Yeah.
Just because they were fleeing a protest after curfew.
Yeah.
You had a police officer in New York that threw a woman to the ground, called her a bitch, and left.
Yeah.
You had police officers in New York that kept people on a Brooklyn Bridge for 3 hours.
It's interesting to see the different reaction that they're like pretty much polar opposite reactions to 2 very big problems in their own right. The massive outbreak of coronavirus versus this. It's very interesting in some ways polarizing to see the polar opposite reactions by the police force to things like this. It's Yeah.
Well, you see, it's because the protesters that were protesting the mask were not all black. I mean, they were not fighting against the police. They were not, like, trying to hold those people accountable.
Yeah.
But let's talk about more stuff that the police have done. They shot and killed a man in Philadelphia. I think it was in Louisville. Sorry, David McAtee. They killed him because he was handing out water and food to both sides of the protest.
Yeah.
You got someone in the cops.
Yeah.
The cops in New York City murdered another man whose name has not been released, so I can't say his name. They murdered another man last night, and it was put on video. In Buffalo, I just saw this. A man was pushed to the ground.
I think I mentioned this. I mentioned this in the last episode. Even though we normally run footage, but in the background of the YouTube version of these episodes, and stuff like that, I will not be putting the actual videos of stuff like George Floyd's murder in the background of this, just because. No, I'm not putting that up there. I think we talked about the last time. Like I'll be putting like quotes, inspirational stuff, and like photos that Ben took when he went to the protest in San Francisco, stuff like that. But I'm not gonna be putting up like actual video of that stuff. That's not gonna go up here.
Let's say that there's a video of like the police like tear gassing protesters. Like
yeah,
I think that we're probably gonna
also I do not I think like also I feel like there's gonna be something that if we don't talk about we're gonna get an email from someone, which is the whole Trump Bible thing.
Yeah, I mean
we're gonna get an email from someone about that if we don't mention that.
Yeah.
Do you want
to talk about that?
Yeah, it was stupid. It was just, oh boy, yeah. Clearing across an entire street just to go take a promotional photo with a Bible, Donald Trump.
With the military.
Yeah.
He used military force against Americans, which is apparently legal in Washington, D.C.
Is it? Yeah, I mean...
Which is stupid.
I think the Trump presidency has exposed a lot of flaws that are supposedly legal and they definitely shouldn't be. This just being one of them. Anyway, yeah. So now we've officially covered that, so we don't have to talk about that because that was just absolutely fucking stupid. It was just so like Donald Trump does a lot of bullshit to the point where I've kind of been desensitized to it by this point. Like he just does shit all the time. This was incredibly stupid. Just because it didn't really serve any purpose except for to be. Okay, what the fuck is the point of this? It didn't really serve any purpose other than just to be there. And just, yeah.
He wanted to look like a tough guy.
Yeah.
Authoritarians always do. And the idea that the president is becoming more and more of an authoritarian is kind of... I didn't used to think it. I was also super desensitized. And then I'm definitely still desensitized. But, like...
Yeah.
I'm getting more and more impression that this guy is fucking... but it's not like I don't know. It's not like death, destruction level.
Yeah, no. It's just he's an idiot. He's an absolute fucking idiot. Oh, that's what this is. And we've known that for a while.
Okay.
Anyway, we've covered the Trump Bible thing. We can move on to actual important things that matter in the grand scheme of this entire, I guess, devastating chapter that's going on right now.
Getting back to this. We're going to talk about my home area of Oakland. Now, in Oakland, you had police pepper spray protesters, throw pepper balls, mace them, tear gas them, fire rubber bullets, and then protests got violent, and a bank was smashed, and then the police were just like, well, it's violent, that's what happened. But they started.
Yeah, I mean, it's like fun fact. If you attack someone or a group of people that are likely to attack back, like this probably would not have gotten. I wouldn't like there may have been some violence up front, but if there was not such high level police retaliation, it would not have gotten this violent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And from all these acts of police brutality, like they have still like in Charleston, there was this guy that was saying, I love you guys like brothers. I want you to love me back. And they went over and arrested him. They just arrested him.
Yeah.
And they dragged him back.
Yeah.
That was horrible. They've been doing this to what seem to be like suspected leaders. They keep dragging these people back and detaining them for however long.
Yeah.
It's the police are not learning their lesson.
It's like,
at least in my city, San Francisco, we had a curfew, and curfews are not supposed to happen like this. This isn't this isn't the time to have a curfew.
No, yeah, I mean, like,
right?
I mean, there's been a curfew in my neighborhood just because of quarantine stuff. Anyway, like around where I live. But yeah, also it's like I want to say something as well really quickly. It's like you can make all the arguments you want about free speech violations, how like this does not qualify as free speech. Regardless of what you say, the police reaction to this has been incredibly fucked up. Yeah,
definitely has, and that is something that we need to condemn. Now let's talk about. Let's get a little philosophical for a second. You know, the philosophy, the waste of time podcast. We're talking about philosophy, which is in itself a waste.
Yeah, pretty much.
But let's talk about hate and love, because I've been seeing a lot of this. Oliver's going to flash some stuff on the screen. I think it's going to be all about how love trumps hate, and if you're hateful, you have no place at these protests. Now,
is this the stuff that you sent me earlier, Ben?
I don't think it was.
Okay.
I'll send you it later.
Cool.
Because our new deadlines. It's really cool. But hate and love. So when they say love wins over hate or love trumps hate, and if you're hateful, you should get the protest. And I love you guys. Honestly, I don't think that does any purpose. I think, well, obviously I'm not going to tell other people how to protest, but I'm going to say most of the people that I saw that were talking about love and hate were white. They were white people at the protests that I went to, which I'll talk about later. And I feel like that's just something used to distract away from the fact that hate is not the same thing as anger. And it's completely okay to hate the police officers that did this, to hate the police that, as an institution, are upholding racism.
Yeah.
And violence versus non-violence, just because you're violent doesn't mean your whole protest is done.
Yeah.
And we need to embrace all sides. In my opinion, we need to embrace a diversity of tactics. And disqualifying one movement because it uses violence is wrong.
Yeah.
It's wrong. It's stupid.
Also,
now, Oliver, you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, so actually, this is actually very interesting. Because Ben actually think you have something to say in this matter maybe a little bit in a second, but like there are actually several police officers in my area, the Santa Cruz, Monterey County area of California. Several police officers would actually join the protests themselves.
Yeah. Well, speaking of police officers joining the protest, in New York City, I think it was Oakland, I think it was Portland, there were the police kneeled with the protesters, also in Austin, and then 20 minutes they came back and they maced and pepper sprayed them.
Yeah.
The police kneeling with you most of the time, the majority of the time, when you see that is propaganda. They did not join the protest.
Propaganda and false confidence,
take off your badge. Exactly. Unless you take off your badge, you are not going with what the protest
like, actually, in the Santa Cruz County area, there's actually I think there's one or two police officers actually did say they would not stand for this. And actually, I think, as far as I know, there's actually one who may have actually left the police force entirely because of this.
That person is a hero.
And
they are wonderful. I fully enjoy them.
Yeah.
But let's be clear. Yeah. When we're talking about police, and when we say we condemn police, we do mean we condemn all police, but not individually. We're not saying that your uncle, who's a police officer, is individually a bad person. You could be nice. You could be the best. But if you're a police officer, the way I see it, at least, it's just like how a hitman killing people, like they could be the nicest person ever, but a hitman is always going to have to kill people. And that in itself is a bad action. That's what I see the police as, and that's what like All Cops Are Bad or 1312 is saying. It's saying that you cannot escape this. That is just part of your job. And that's kind of why people think you can only fight this with some sort of violence, quote unquote hate. That's the only way to get stuff done, is what they say. Now, I can't tell you if I agree on this podcast. I don't know if this is an area that I can say that. But I'll just say it is a compelling argument, and I have looked at it.
Yeah. Also, can I bring up something here very quickly about like in this day and age, everything goes through and is affected by the internet, no matter what it is. There's something I saw that was actually very sickening and disgusting, just in terms of disrespect and just I think Ben, you may know what I'm referring to here. I didn't even want to say those words, but yeah, the kneeling on the neck is now a freaking internet challenge, because what the fuck is this world thinking? That is just, I saw that and I'm like, my mind just went blank. I'm like, at first I thought it was like a fake. I saw it on like a meme account, right, on Instagram. So at first I thought, maybe someone created it just for the purpose of a very bad meme, which is offensive enough. But then actually looked it up. I don't know if it's still there, but there was for a while, for like at least a few hours, a Know Your Meme page for it. So it became an official thing.
Yeah.
That's just beyond fucked up. That's horrible. That's just.
I don't know. I'm not in SHC anymore, so I can tell you guys my school, Sacred Heart Cathedral, has been known for racist incidents in the past. We have had we had a person make a racist rap song that was released to the public and said he was going to kill minorities at our school, who thankfully was expelled and didn't actually do that. We had another person that made a racist TikTok about starving African children and how you have to turn on all your showers so that African children don't get water. And then this person racially harassed somebody else at our school for a certain race.
Right. Yeah.
For being black.
Also, it's like you brought up like the whole racist song. This might be a topic for another podcast, but like there's a difference between like genuine racism and overuse of racist humor because it's funny or just to make a statement. Again, like I think we mentioned this before. Like South Park did an episode that targeted stuff like this as well. There's they overuse stuff like that just because to make a statement about how unacceptable it actually is to use that in that sort of situation versus people who actually think like that or want stuff like that to happen. So, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, and sometimes it can be unacceptable.
Yeah.
And if you're making that, chances are you think it's just a joke.
Yeah.
Well, it is just a joke, but the thing about jokes is that they have to be funny, right?
Yeah.
And that's not funny.
It's not even anti-humor. Anti-humor is like, why did Sally fall off the swing? She had no arms. That's anti-humor. That's in some way dark and funny and just very twisted. That like racist stuff that's like legitimate racist is just fucked up. Anyway, also no offense to anyone who was actually named Sally and has no arms. No offense to anyone like that. It was just
no offense.
Yeah.
No offense. We're not trying to.
I actually heard that we actually had that joke at a Laurel School talent show. I forget who told that joke, but it was at Laurel School talent show in like 7th grade. Someone told that joke. Anyway. Ben, let's move on from the anti-humor to something a little bit to back to our topic for this episode, which is
So speaking about social media, let's talk about the power that social media has. Everybody that's listening to this, I would like you to hear this as a call to action. If you can, repost on your story or something like a thing about what resources you can use to help.
Yeah.
Or use your power and your privilege and your platform to help. Oliver and I are doing this.
Yeah. Also, if I can, I'm gonna link a whole ton of stuff in the description for this video as well. I'm gonna do a whole ton of links.
Mm-hmm. Check the description. We have resources, and we're gonna tell you at the end the resources that you can use to help. I'm just saying that we need to use our platform and our privilege to help other people. But recently, I've been seeing. I don't know if you've seen this too, Oliver. That there's people that have use their power and privilege for what seems like activism, but isn't. It's not. Have you seen the Black Square Challenge, the hashtag Blackout Tuesday?
Yeah, that thing.
So
yeah, it's just it becomes it makes it into a trend really, and it just becomes over bloated and just it becomes meaningless after a while.
There was also another problem. So when you do that thing, hashtag Blackout Tuesday, a lot of people were doing hashtag Black Lives Matter and hashtag Blackout Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
So what that ends up doing is mixing the metadata.
Yeah.
And it ends up mixing those two. So when you go to hashtag Black Lives Matter, when you're trying to find protest information, you end up going to hashtag Blackout Tuesday, and it's just a wall of black screens.
Yeah, pretty much. It was not helpful. Yeah.
That just set back.
As I mentioned in the last episode, I take like screenshots of stuff. I proactively take screenshots and photos. Like even like if I know it's gonna come out in the podcast, I want to get some footage for it for the YouTube version. Which, due to SoundCloud being a bitch when it comes to policy and payment stuff, it's now the only version, the YouTube version. No more SoundCloud after this. Yeah. There's no more SoundCloud after this one. This is the first. I think starting episode 6 and all. There's not gonna be any more SoundCloud stuff. Anyway, that's the thing. Like I went to Instagram. I actually followed the Black Lives Matter hashtag just because of got the information for this podcast, right? So I went hashtag Black Lives Matter just to get the screenshots to use in the background of the video. Like I normally do. As I said, I don't normally run footage and photos in the backgrounds of the video we're doing the audio stuff. Anyway, I went on there. It's just pretty much a wall of black screens and occasionally some other stuff on there. But yeah, There's also another hashtag, which is All Lives Matter as well, which is another one. Have you seen that one as much, Ben?
Oh my god, okay, so I have a really funny story. So on Twitter, All Lives Matter and Blue Lives Matter have been taken over by K-pop stans.
What?
They put videos of their favorite K-pop star.
Are you serious?
I'm serious.
Okay,
I'm
I've got a
serious.
Twitter account, right? But I only use it when my OneDrive capture from my Xbox isn't working. It's just game clips. I don't ever actually use the account. So, like, follow me. I think it's Oliver Giles 20. Follow me if you want to. But I don't ever do it. I don't really ever do anything. But yeah, but is that true though?
It was so good. Yeah, no, it's true. And then on Instagram, they tried to flood the All Lives Matter hashtag with pictures of Peter Griffin.
I did see that
And it
one.
worked.
I mean, All Lives Matter is also.
Freaking out.
I think before this whole thing started, like a few weeks ago, All Lives Matter is mainly a thing for animal rights activists as well. They were using it, for the elephant that was murdered, stuff like that. Anyway, though,
Eventually, All Lives Matter was, we can just do a little side tangent for All Lives Matter. This will take like 1 minute.
Sure.
All Lives Matter was meant to counteract Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
It was essentially, in 2015 when Black Lives Matter started appearing, they're like, well, All Lives Matter though. But that's just like telling somebody that has a broken leg, right? What about my legs? Why are you helping that person that has their legs broken? Like, obviously, all lives matter. But if all lives mattered, then we wouldn't have Black Lives Matter, right?
Exactly, yeah. It kind of cancels out in a really weird way, yeah.
Also, Blue Lives Matter, you can choose to be a cop, you cannot choose to be black. That's the difference.
Yep.
That's the main difference. Sorry, I sound like Big Red. I'm not trying to sound like Big Red. I'm really angry. I'm really angry about this because
Yeah,
it's just something that's just been going on forever.
yeah.
And honestly, the goals of this movement are kind of radical and kind of extreme. We want to defund the police. I sent you this thing. Hold up. I'm going to pull up the image. Give me a few seconds. Oliver sent me this image, so it's really handy that I can use this.
Wait. I sent you something?
First image,
What did I send you?
yeah, you did. You sent me an image on Instagram where you just took a screenshot, but please don't unsend it.
Oh, right,
So
yeah,
the first
okay.
one was...
Yeah.
So the first thing is, we want, maybe not all the protesters, but the most radical ones want to empty precincts, defund the police, and disarm them, at least for now, and then to have justice for George Floyd. Also to end curfews and road closures, withdraw the National Guard, allow the free redistribution of goods from damaged businesses, drop all charges and cease investigations for everyone involved in the protests, and guarantee the right for free assembly in the future. So,
Yeah.
in this time that we've had quote-unquote violent protests, we have seen the defunding of police in LA, the promise of some of it in San Francisco. We've seen it in Portland. We have seen it not in New York, because New York is run by the police.
Yep.
We have just seen so much, like, actual good. We've seen the other people that were involved in George Floyd's murder to be arrested. We've seen the people that were involved in Ahmaud Arbery's lynching to be arrested. We have seen so much, and we need to keep fighting. We need to keep spreading stuff on our social media. We need to keep protesting until they finally defund the police everywhere.
Yeah.
And that is our goal.
Also, like, I think it's like,
Performative activism.
if you want to see change, like San Francisco's always been known as a very progressive city when it comes to change, just in general. So I think it's going to be, it may not be a catalyst, but it's going to probably be a very bold representation of the change that this could bring around pretty quickly.
Well, you know what else has been seen as a liberal city and a city for super change? Portland and Minneapolis.
I thought you were going to say
It
Austin,
was
Texas for a
these
second. Yeah.
Democratic.
Yeah, Portland, yeah.
Well, keep Austin weird. Yeah, Austin too. In all these places, though, the police have showed that the only function of the state for them is to secure and to fuck people up. That's what we've seen.
Yeah.
And it's like, liberal cities aren't safe from this too. We're not safe from it too.
Yeah.
I think there's a whole thing about, like, demandthe8.com. I don't know what it is. I'll send it to you later. It's this whole thing about checking on whether your city has these 8 reforms. But none of these reforms actually do much good, because the San Francisco Police Department was out there yesterday throwing tear gas at people and arresting protesters for peacefully assembling. That's all that they did.
Yep.
And just being out past the curfew. That doesn't help.
No.
It
not
doesn't
at all.
help to have these reforms. What we need to do is defund the police. I saw this really wonderful image that said personal protective equipment for people in coronavirus costs like $20, and then riot gear costs $200. Why can't we spend that $200 on personal protective equipment for the people in the front lines of coronavirus?
Yep, exactly.
That's
yeah.
what we need to do.
Also, Ben, I want to
We also
quickly.
need to spend them on the USPS.
Yeah. But also, I want to quickly loop back around to something we were talking about earlier with the whole Black Square thing. Some companies have also been shifting. Some companies have been changing their logos over the last few weeks to represent the Black Lives Matter thing. I actually went ahead and reinstalled Reddit on my phone today. Reddit, because I was having some issues. I had uninstalled and reinstalled it for some reason. Anyway, Reddit changed their logo from the robot thing in the, I guess, orange. What is it? Is it a circle? You know what I'm talking about. We with the orange background, right? So now it's the robot thing with the black
Also,
background.
Rockstar has taken GTA offline, and I think they've taken Red Dead offline.
Have they actually?
Yeah, I think for like 4 hours. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not today. Maybe it's tomorrow. But
Ben, right now, I'm actually gonna load up Red Dead and see if that's a thing right now. I'm gonna load Red Dead 2 and I'll see if that's a thing.
But the thing about it is the issue
Yeah.
is that people that are protesting are not only protesting against the police. A lot of people are also. When I went to the protest, we'll talk about this later. Like almost 2 minutes probably. They're also protesting capitalism, and they're protesting companies because companies help reinforce police by paying them as guards, paying them as security. The police exist to protect property. So that Oliver and I had a little disagreement over it, and it does do some. We kind of split heads on whether it was like.
I think it's like it's better than doing nothing, but it's certainly not enough.
Yeah, I've come around to that position. I've definitely come around to that position. Because it is better than doing nothing. It does raise awareness to the issue. However, it definitely is not enough, right?
It's like, do you remember? Was it 2015 after the? Do you remember was it the Paris bombing was in 2015? And Twitter changed their logo for that as well. I remember that. I think that was like one of the last times I can actually remember Twitter changing a logo for something like this. Was it Paris thing?
Yeah, I mean.
But yeah.
But changing your logo is different than donating, and it's different.
That's
than
true.
Actually raising awareness and stuff.
I saw the black red thing, and I actually looked at the app description. It actually says like if you search up in the app store, like I think it's like at the top of the page it says change to reflect Black Lives Matter, whatever it is, on the Reddit page. But like, if I wasn't as aware of this as I was right now, I might not know because like it isn't like it's like when you fire up Reddit, it doesn't you won't agree with the home screen that says anything about Black Lives Matter. I think the only change to it is just the color of the app. So if you weren't really, I guess, if you're one of the people who somehow didn't pay attention to anything over the last few weeks, you might not know that that's what that was. So, yeah. It's not really raising awareness. It's only kind of contributing to the awareness that you may already have about the subject, which isn't really as helpful as it could be.
Yeah, but I mean, some people's minds are finally seeing it, which is passable. But capitalism,
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. So let's talk about my experience at a protest. So that was a really great segue. So
yeah,
I got there 30 minutes early. I sent Oliver a ton of pictures. Something that I noticed there was
I'll use them
there were
throughout.
So many. There were, Oliver, you saw from the image, right? There were like 50,000 activists. It was 10 blocks moving forward. People went, okay, so before any protest, you have like an hour 30 or so of speakers talking, right? So they talked about ending capitalism, they talked about natives on the land, they talked about fuck the police, fuck 12, ACAB. People started chanting. It was very powerful. And then they also said, we're not here to destroy stuff. And it was, the thing was, it was very nonviolent. We didn't see any destruction of property. The only thing we saw was the burning of a few American flags and a shit ton of weed. They smoked a lot.
Hey, Ben, you're in San Francisco. What the fuck do you expect them to do? They're going to smoke weed. Yeah.
It's almost like Santa Cruz.
Yeah, not quite that much, but yeah. But also, Ben, I want to thank you for taking photos. Like, Ben, I want to thank you for taking photos, even though, like you said, you weren't, because I think you said like you wasn't really expected to do that. But yeah, thank you for taking photos and stuff like that. Even though originally you didn't want to, but thank you for doing that. That's gonna be. I'm gonna try to run Ben's photos and videos throughout this at some point, if I remember to. Hopefully, I will. Just because it's important to see that type of stuff. It's like really firsthand too. It's really cool to see that. In Ben's case,
something that I saw was Oliver. If you're here, you can show like the ACAB thing on the building. There were a lot of radicals. So there was a congressperson who's running against Nancy Pelosi, vote for Shahid Buttar. There was some revolutionary communists that were there, and they didn't do any violence. They handed out food, they handed out water, they handed out masks, sanitizer, gloves, goggles. That's all they did.
Actually,
it was
that
was wonderful.
That actually brings me to another point I wanted to ask. How many people there were actually wearing masks? Because the whole quarantine packed together in a very tight space type thing.
Almost every single person there was wearing a mask.
That's good. That's
wearing
good.
Like a bandana or a mask, or handing out free masks to everyone that didn't have one.
Good, because
I think every.
That's good because it's even though people are protesting it's an important issue, but also with the quarantine, you should still try to stay safe. So that's good that people were actually trying to do that. Update: Red Dead is still trying to load RDR2 online, so I don't know if it's still taken down or not because I've been in the loading screen for about 5 minutes now. Just letting you know that.
Well, we'll see. But yeah, so there was, sadly, my dad who was with us he couldn't walk after like 10 blocks, so we had to get picked up. But we were originally supposed to go to a police precinct that was 6 blocks away, but they said, no, we're actually going on a completely unauthorized route, and we're going to the big jail. Oliver, you know where the big jail is. It's where you used to live, right?
Which one? The two towns and apartments, or the other one? Langton
the one
Street.
on the alleyway.
Yeah, Langton Street. The one where Brainwash Cafe used to be. That area. Yeah, I've seen that. Also, Ben?
Yeah. You know where the big
Ben?
precinct is, right?
Yeah. But also, alert, you've been disconnected from the Rockstar alert, you've been disconnected from the Red Dead Online due to a fault on Rockstar Game Services. So, I think you're right that they may be down.
People are firing fireworks. Hell yeah, let's go. Anyway,
yeah, I think Rockstar might be down. You're right. All right, so sorry about the whole technical difficulties bit right there. We kind of lost some audio. I don't know what happened. I looked at my phone, which I used to record the audio, and the audio was completely flatlining, meaning it was not picking up any sound at all. Luckily, we didn't. It's not like we recorded like 15 minutes and had to redo like 15 minutes worth of podcast. I caught it pretty early on, so we're only like recording, I guess, like 30 seconds, something like that. Anyway, Ben, you were saying.
Yeah, so I already said this twice, I think, but at the protest, it didn't get violent at all. Actually, this is like we're wrapping up the news segment. So
yeah,
the protest didn't get violent at all. The worst was like graffiti on a U.S. bank, but like if it's Chinese free reign, so who cares? Small businesses were giving out like cold water. They were giving out free food. They were giving out masks and hand sanitizer. I loved it. Honestly, it was really good, and we finally showed those cops because like. Did you know, immediately after our protests, they lifted the curfew and they said they would defund the police. That's what they did.
Yeah. Anyway, now we're going to move on to something that's kind of, I guess, it's in a way, it's our quarantine media segment, but it's been adapted to fit the tone of this podcast. This is the recommended media for this crisis, this outbreak of protests and all type of stuff. So, Ben, I guess we're just going to discuss some, like, reading material here or films that kind of share themes with what we've been talking about this whole episode. Ben, do you want to go first?
So another little introduction. So we think it's important that we have media that reflects these ideas because it's much easier to understand these ideas if you see them in media.
Yeah.
So the first one I would recommend, the one that really opened my eyes to this entire crisis and kind of like really turned me from somebody who was very apathetic about this kind of stuff into somebody that really cares, is called The Hate U Give. It's a book and it's also a movie, and the movie was so empowering. It was so just, God, I sound horrible, but it felt like it was an epiphany for me. Essentially, it's about a woman who has one of her friends shot and killed by a cop, and the whole thing that she goes through, and everything that she goes through to try to. I'm not going to spoil it all, but it's just so very powerful, and you should watch it. It's on Hulu. Or read it. Like, it's also super entertaining, too. Everyone listening to this should watch it.
Well, it's called The Hate U Give, you said?
The Hate U Give on Hulu.
I'm going to see if it's on anything else apart from Hulu. Was it a Hulu original film, or was it just on Hulu?
No, so it's on Hulu, is what I heard.
Oh, okay. Okay, actually, I can actually see where it is. Anyway,
if it's you that told me this, but you look up "watch the show," it'll give you where you can stream it, right?
Yeah, if you Google it, it says it's a grayed out box on the screen, kind of like where it shows like details from the film. I think second tab over, I think it's like watch movie. I mentioned that in the last podcast. It's on YouTube for $14.99, Google Play $14.99, Vudu $14.99, Amazon Prime Video $14.99, and if you have a Hulu subscription, it's on there. It's not on the Hulu subscription. Like Hulu has various like expand. It's not like Hulu plus HBO, Hulu plus Disney Plus. It's just basic Hulu, so it's on there. Anyway. My one is 13th. It's a Netflix documentary. I think it's from 2016. It's actually a Netflix original. It actually deals with institutionalized racism, and it's about essentially just, I guess, it's just racism from several hundred years ago all the way to now, and just all the way to, I guess, 2016 when it was recorded, with interviews and stuff like that. It's a very difficult watch. I first watched it when I was at Camp Newman, part of the Raw thing, which the whole point of the summer was for social awareness. Like, it was a whole like thing about like racial activism and stuff like that. That's what we were doing that summer at Camp Newman for my group that summer, and we watched that. It's a very, if you aren't good with like documentaries or just like deep or the imagery can be quite graphic, because they actually do some real footage in that documentary. So if you're not good with that, then I would not recommend watching it. But it's kind of similar to this podcast. If you it would really help to understand. I think it would actually really help you to understand. Just people in general, to be honest, to understand what's going on right now with the current climate we're in right now. But it's on Netflix. It's on Netflix. It's Netflix. It's also it's on Netflix and only Netflix. It's not anywhere else, I don't think, unless you somehow find like some bootleg online version. But I actually went to the watch movie tab. It's only on Netflix.
Movies.
Yeah, yeah. Remember the Pirate Bay? Yeah, I remember that website.
Oh no!
I don't think
Right,
I thought they got shut down. Anyway, yeah.
Here is anything by Public. So at Public Enemy.
We're on to music. We're on to music now. By the way, if you couldn't tell, we're on to this is music.
Yeah, we're on to music. So it's NWA, Public Enemy.
I want to point out that we had this was not the original plan for the episode was not this. The original plan for the episode, I actually had like a whole one planned out that was much it was like lighthearted stuff like that. The original plan the original plan for this episode was gonna be like a normal episode with the news being the whole SpaceX thing.
So again, Public. I'm talking about Public Enemy first. Public Enemy is like they're a black liberation group. They tell you about their struggles. Like, it's super real. You will understand their struggles if you hear that. So the next one, I don't know if Oliver wants to put this. So if you want to donate to Black Lives Matter, we're gonna put a card in the description. I'll send it to you, Oliver.
Yeah.
But if you don't have any money, or if your parents won't let you donate because they're lunatics and they suck, you can watch this video that Oliver, I hope you also put in the description. Essentially, you can turn off your volume, play it in the background, reload it, and all the proceeds generated from it will go to Black Lives Matter and the association's affiliate.
Boy, do I miss the Instagram Boy, do I miss the YouTube annotations right now. They would be very helpful at this point in time. But yeah.
I really would. You can do the cards.
I know, but I think I mentioned this a few times ago with the YouTube Studio Editor. They made it an absolute bitch to add polls and cards and links and things, apart from the end screen. Anyway, yeah. So anything else you want to talk about in the quarantine media, in the recommended media?
Next two ones. So the next two ones are the first one is a recommended read. It just goes through all the police violence that has been happening against protesters, and it does so in a way that I think really encapsulates it. The headline is "Police Across America Erupt in Violence," rather than "Protests Erupt in Violence," because I think the police are the ones that are erupting in violence.
Yeah.
So it's important that we show that. And finally, I have an article for some of the more radical people who really want to read. It's a 26-minute long Medium article, and the word, and it says, "Why saying rioting is bad is bullshit, and other terrible takes championed by white men with unwashed asses." So,
you sent me that. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Yeah. Yeah, I actually read part of that. It's very good. It's very good. I actually read part of that.
It's provocative.
Yeah, I mean, it's a title that definitely grabs your attention, that's for certain.
It's provocative, but it does explain a lot of the leftist position and a lot of the position that a lot of people feel.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So I think that was very important.
Yeah.
But don't forget, if you're watching this and you want to do your part, there are several things you can do. You can, again, watch that video. You can donate at the stuff. You can sign petitions. You can call your representative if you really want to work within electoralism. Or you can repost stuff on your story about Black Lives Matter. If you see other people posting it, you post it too.
Yeah.
If you see...
Ben, you've been doing a really good job at that the last few days. The last few days you've been posting a lot on your story on Instagram about that.
Yeah. Obviously, you don't have to. And I don't think any less of you if you do it, and I hope that other people wouldn't think any less of you if you do it. But you should be doing at least one thing to help, is my opinion.
Yeah.
Because we just need to keep the gas going, and this is one of our ways to help.
Recording this podcast, yeah.
Using your voice and your platform is wonderful. Yeah.
All right.
So on that note,
so again, because just due to we've put some humorous jokes in this one. But we're not gonna do the normal anything you normally send to it. Like we're not like last time. Like we're not gonna do that normal ending joke on this one just because I think it wouldn't really be appropriate here. But I would like to say next time, hopefully we're gonna be. I hope the next time can be a little bit more like a back to normal, more lighthearted episode. Back to like what we normally do.
I just want to be back to normal.
Let's just hope it is.
We might talk about this again, but it's not gonna be the whole thing.
Yeah.
I hope.
Anyway, next time, tune in to episode 8, whenever that is. Hopefully next Saturday. If our recording schedule isn't a bitch again, but hopefully next Saturday, tune into a more normal episode. But again, this might not have been the most fun to record, but I feel like it was important. I feel like we said what we needed to say, and it was definitely meaningful, at least to me, that we actually recorded this. This is
And if you watched till the end,
thank you.
If you watched to the end, thank you very much.
Yeah.
If you felt educated, thank you very much too. However, if you want to send us something with hashtag White Lives Matter, hashtag like All Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter, you can take that elsewhere, and we don't really want you.
Yeah.
I don't want you. I don't know.
Anyway, that's going to be about it for this show. Thank you for sticking around to the very end.
Yes,
Again, it was not a fun topic to talk about, but it had to be talked about. It needed to be talked about in this show, and I'm glad we talked about it. We'll see you on the next episode. And if you made it this far, if you made it all the way to the end, we thank you. Good night.